Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and I have for you today the third Cheerleaders novel, The Third Evil. There is a lot of nostalgia for these books. The Cheerleaders series is unique among R.L. Stine's books because it began as a trilogy, and then it spawned 2 additional books, but they are super chillers. If you're not familiar with the super chillers, they are a little longer, a little more detailed, and they allow R.L. Stine to explore more complex ideas and scenery. It's kind of like Fear Street is a made-for-TV movie, and a super chiller is a full-on Lionsgate release, or a Paramount movie, or something like that. That's how I think about Fear Street versus the super chillers anyway. And the point horror stuff, well, that's just his indie films. So back to the nostalgia thing. I don't have any nostalgia for these books because I didn't read them when I was growing up. I think I had the 4th book. I really can't find it in my library. I've checked my attic, and I can't find it. But I am sure that I had one of these novels growing up. But it was always like the middle of the series. It was either book 3 or book 4. And I never had the other ones. So why would I read the middle of the story when I have no idea what's going on? So I never read these growing up. But I did read books 1 and 2. And holy cow, those are phenomenal. That is supernatural to the nines. It is R.L. Stine firing on all cylinders. It is very, very good. And it deserves to be on any serious Fear Street collector's shelf. It is awesome. This stuff is good stuff. You are in for a very, very good treat. When last we left our heroes, it was Corky and Bobby Kokorin. They are sisters. They moved to Shady Side in book 1. And they are like cheerleader prodigies. They set up all kinds of complex routines. And they start training the Shady Side cheerleaders on what their routines are. You know, they were all state and things like that. Bobby ends up dying, and a ghost gets involved, and book 2 is a continuation of that. It's been a very long time since I've read book 2, and I do have notes on the voices, so I'm going to try to get them all right. If I don't, I did my best. So I am very eager to get started. So let's begin. What should I read next? I don't know. Send me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I am also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I love seeing what you have to say. I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me, tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and let's begin. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of the Cheerleaders series, Book 3, The Third Evil, by R.L. Stine. Part 1, Chapter 1. Miss Green's whistle echoed off the high ceiling of the gym. The cheerleaders stopped in mid-cheer as their advisor raised both hands to her head and pretended to tear out her frizzy brown hair. Her eyes were wide with exasperation. Corky Kokorin sighed. That routine was going really well, she thought. Why did Miss Green stop us? She cast a glance down the line of cheerleaders to her friend Kimmy Bass. Kimmy mopped her forehead with the sleeve of her t-shirt. She also appeared to be annoyed by the interruption. It was warm for early April. The air in the gym felt hot and damp. Corky had her blonde hair pulled straight back and tied in a high ponytail. She and the 5 other Shady Side High cheerleaders were dressed in lycra shorts and loose-fitting t-shirts, which were drenched in perspiration from the after-school practice. "Hannah, do me a favor," Miss Green said. "Step forward and show my veteran cheerleaders the proper way to do a round-off back tuck." Hannah Miles bounced forward obediently, a broad smile on her pretty face. "I like to start in this position," she said, not at all embarrassed at being singled out. "You know, with my knees bent a little so I get more spring." A slender, graceful freshman, Hannah was the only new member of the Shady Side High squad after spring tryouts. She replaced Megan Carmen, who was graduating in June. Hannah had long, straight black hair that she wore in a single thick braid to her waist, and dark brown eyes that were constantly flashing with excitement. She performed her back tuck, flipping high off the floor and landing perfectly on both feet. Then, without a pause, she performed a second back tuck, just as stylish as the first. "How was that?" she asked innocently, straightening her t-shirt. "She thinks she's really great," Ronnie Mitchell whispered bitterly to Corky. She is great, Corky whispered back. Hannah's making us all look like clumsy elephants, Corky thought. She watched Hannah flash Kimmy a smile as she rejoined the line of girls. Kimmy and Deborah Kern were co-captains of the squad, and Hannah had started playing up to them, asking for advice and fishing for compliments. We all know Hannah is good. Why does she have to show off all the time, Corky wondered. Then she had to admit to herself, I guess I'm a little jealous. At the beginning of the year, Corky and her sister Bobby had been the stars, the flashiest, most enthusiastic, and talented cheerleaders on the squad, but so much had happened since then. So much horror. Bobby was dead, and so was Corky's boyfriend, Chip. Both of them murdered by an ancient evil spirit that had inhabited two of the cheerleaders. First, Jennifer Daly. Poor Jennifer. Also dead. Then Kimmy. Corky had rescued Kimmy from the evil. Afterward, Corky thought she could push away the terrifying memories by throwing herself into her cheerleading, by making herself go on with her life. But sometimes it was hard to forget, hard to go on, and hard to be just one of the squad members. I'm not even co-captain, Corky thought, glancing unhappily at Deborah. I'm a better cheerleader than Deborah, she thought. Everyone knows it. But before spring tryouts, Miss Green had explained her decision to Corky. Corky, I'm afraid you just don't need the pressure of being co-captain, she had said with genuine concern. I mean, after all that has happened. All that has happened. Corky shook her head, tossing her ponytail, trying to shake away her bitter thoughts. Deborah's my friend, she told herself. There's no point in being jealous of her. Corky, did you hear one word I said? Miss Green's husky voice broke into Corky's thoughts. Yes, of course, Corky lied, feeling her cheeks grow hot. Then let's try the football chant again, Miss Green said, staring hard at Corky. Kimmy leapt forward, clapping her hands, and turned to the 5 other girls. Okay, ready? On 3. She counted to 3, and they began their chant, their voices rising with each repetition, stomping and clapping in a rhythm they had practiced. Tigers, let's score. 6 more points and more. Stomp, stomp. Tigers, let's score. 6 more points and more. Stomp, stomp. Louder, Kimmy urged, cupping one ear with her hand. I can't hear you. Tigers, let's score. 6 more points and more. Still can't hear you, Kimmy shouted. As they repeated the chant even louder, Corky glanced down the line to Hannah. Shouting enthusiastically, her hands in a high V, Hannah ended her chant and then spontaneously leapt into a tuck jump, rising high off the floor and slapping her knees at the peak of the jump. What a show-off, Corky thought. Hannah knows we don't do a tuck jump here. Miss Green is going to get on her case now. Corky turned her eyes expectantly to Miss Green, but instead of seeing anger on the coach's face, Corky was surprised to see approval, even a smile. I like that, Hannah, Miss Green declared. That's a very clever finish. She turned to Kimmy. What do you say? Let's try it again, and everybody do a tuck jump at the end. I don't believe it, Ronnie muttered to Corky, shaking her head. I believe it, Corky replied dryly. Hannah the Wonder Cheerleader, Ronnie said under her breath. Corky laughed and looked down the row of girls. Heather Deal was leaning close to Deborah, whispering something in her ear. Kimmy flashed Corky a meaningful glance, then stepped forward, changing her expression of disapproval to a smile. She began to chant again. Tigers, let's score. 6 points and more. The girls repeated the chant, getting louder each time. Then they all ended with tuck jumps. Corky watched Hannah out of the corner of her eye. Her tuck jump was the highest of all. Her dark eyes sparkled and her face radiated enthusiasm as she landed gracefully, clapping her hands. That was great, she exclaimed. Can we do it again? What's her problem anyway? Kimmy asked, twirling her water glass between her hands. Her problem is she's terrific, Corky replied, squeezing against the wall as Deborah slid beside her in a red vinyl booth. And we're jealous. I'm not jealous of her, Ronnie said quickly. A thoughtful look creased her face. Well, maybe just her hair. Ronnie had tight copper-colored curls, a tiny stub of a nose, and a face full of freckles. She was in 9th grade, but looked about 12. Hannah has awesome hair. She's stuck up, Kimmy offered. She's so stuck up, she probably knows we're talking about her right now. The 4 girls laughed. Practice had ended at 4:30, and they had driven to The Corner, a new coffee shop a few blocks from school that had quickly become a hangout for Shadyside students. Hannah isn't so bad, Deborah remarked, her eyes lowered to the menu. She's just enthusiastic. The other 3 stared at Deborah in surprise. Since when are you her best friend? Kimmy asked sarcastically. Deborah raised her icy blue eyes from the menu. I'm not. I just said she isn't so bad. She isn't mean or anything. Deborah had straight blonde hair cut very short. She was thin, almost too thin, and seldom smiled, an unlikely combination for a cheerleader. "So we have one vote for Hannah," Kimmy said, making a 1 in the air with her index finger. "Anyone else?" Before Corky or Ronnie could cast a vote, the waitress interrupted to take their orders. Kimmy and Ronnie ordered hamburgers and Cokes. Deborah ordered a plate of French fries and a chocolate shake. No matter what she ate, she never put on weight. When Corky ordered a bowl of split-pea soup, the others erupted in disapproval. "Yuck!" Ronnie exclaimed, sticking her finger down her throat. "I may hurl." "I happen to like pea soup," Corky insisted. "You're weird," Kimmy told her. "You're definitely weird." "Is Hannah going out with anyone?" Corky asked, deliberately changing the subject. "You ever see the guys hanging around her locker after school every day?" Ronnie asked. "It's disgusting. Their tongues hanging out of their mouths. They practically drool on her." "Tisk, tisk," Deborah clicked her tongue. "Sounds to me like you're jealous, Ronnie." Ronnie stuck her tongue out at Deborah. "So?" "I think she's going out with Gary Brand," Kimmy offered. "At least, I saw them together at the mall Saturday night." "Gary's kinda cool," Ronnie said, fiddling with her silverware. "Kinda," Deborah agreed with unusual enthusiasm. "Hey, can you picture Hannah making out with Gary?" Ronnie asked, grinning. She performed a cheer. "Go, Gary, go! Go, Gary, go! Yay!" Everyone laughed. "Know what?" Kimmy added. "Every time he kisses her, she probably does a tuck jump." More laughter. "Hey, are you guys ready for next week?" Corky asked, changing the subject again. "I'm already packed," Ronnie said. "I can't wait. This will be the best spring break ever." "A whole week away from home," Corky said, sighing. "A whole week away from my pesty little brother." "Maybe we'll meet some guys," Ronnie said, grinning. "You know, college dudes." "You guys are in for a shock," Deborah said dryly. "There'll be no time to hang out and meet guys. Cheerleader camp is torture. You work your buns off exercising in the morning, practicing new cheers all afternoon, going to workshop after workshop. Then at night, you kill yourself competing against the other squads." "Bobby and I went to a cheerleader camp one summer in Missouri before we moved here," Corky recalled. "We worked hard, but we also did some partying." "The Madison College campus is supposed to be pretty," Ronnie said. "My cousin told me the dorm we're staying in is brand new." "Maybe we'll all room together," Ronnie exclaimed. "It's going to be awesome." Everyone agreed except for Deborah. "It's hard work and a lot of pressure," she warned. "You have to be enthusiastic and have a smile plastered on your face all day long." When Ronnie and Deborah got up to go to the restroom, Kimmy slid in beside Corky, a troubled expression on her face. "How are you doing?" she asked quietly. "Okay, I guess," Corky shrugged. "No, I mean really," Kimmy insisted, her dark eyes staring into Corky's, as if searching for something. "I'm doing a little better," Corky replied, fiddling with her silverware. "I don't think about things as much. I force myself not to think about Bobby or Chip or—" "I can't stop thinking about it," Kimmy said emotionally, clasping her hands tightly together on the Formica tabletop. "I keep thinking, what if the evil spirit is still around? What if it's still inside me?" Her voice cracked as she said this. She swallowed hard. "Kimmy," Corky started, resting a hand on Kimmy's arm. "I saw the evil spirit pour out of you. I saw it go down my bathtub drain. It's gone. You're okay now. You don't have to worry." "But how do we know it's gone for good? Corky, you got that note. The one that said it can't be drowned? And Corky, sometimes I feel so strange," Kimmy whispered, her eyes watering. She gripped Corky's arm and held it tightly. "Sometimes I just don't feel right." The door to the coffee shop opened, and some guys from the basketball team walked in. One of them, John Mirren, a lanky boy with short brown hair and a goofy grin, waved to Kimmy before sliding into a booth with his pals. "Kimmy, we just have to pray that the evil spirit is gone for good," Corky said. "But what if it isn't?" Kimmy demanded again. Corky shrugged and felt a sudden chill. "It's got to be gone," she said, lowering her voice to a whisper. "I can't take any more death. I can't—" Her voice trailed off. Deborah and Ronnie returned, giggling and pushing each other playfully. They stopped when they saw the grim expressions on Corky's and Kimmy's faces. "Hey, what's wrong?" Deborah demanded. "You two still talking about Hannah Miles? Give the poor kid a break." She slid in across from Corky and Kimmy. Ronnie lowered herself into the booth beside Deborah. Corky forced a smile. "No, we weren't talking about Hannah." "Do you know what other schools are going to be at the cheerleader camp?" Ronnie asked Kimmy. Kimmy shook her head, tossing her crimped black hair. "I think there's going to be a squad from Waynesbridge, and maybe the cheerleaders from Belvedere." "The ones that do all that rap stuff?" "Wow, they're excellent," Corky exclaimed. "Who else?" "I don't know," Kimmy replied. "About 100 cheerleaders total, I think." The waitress appeared. carrying their orders on a metal tray. "Who gets the pea soup?" she asked, staring at each girl. Making disgusted faces, all three of her companions pointed to Corky. "Give me a break," Corky muttered. "I had a craving for pea soup. What's the big deal?" The waitress set the food down and left. "John Mirren waved at you," Deborah said to Kimmy, squeezing the ketchup dispenser over her french fries. "I saw him as I was leaving the ladies' room." "So?" Kimmy asked offensively. "So maybe he likes you," Deborah said. She put down the ketchup and reached for the salt. Kimmy shrugged. "He's a funny guy," Ronnie said, around a mouthful of hamburger. "He's a riot in science lab. Were you there last week when he spilled the hydrochloric acid?" "That sounds hilarious," Deborah said sarcastically. "You had to be there," Ronnie replied. The tomato slid out of her hamburger. She struggled to push it back in. Suddenly, Corky uttered a loud gasp. The others looked up from their food. "Corky, what's wrong?" Kimmy cried. Corky's eyes were wide with surprise. "Look!" She pointed down at her soup bowl. The other three turned their eyes to the ball. The thick green soup appeared to be bubbling. "Why is it doing that?" Ronnie asked, leaning forward to get a better look. "Oh!" she cried out, and pulled her head back as a gob of soup spurted up from the ball. "Hey!" Corky cried in alarm. The thick soup was tossing in the bowl, rising up against the edges like green ocean waves, bubbling higher and higher. "Gross! Yuck, it's alive! What's going on?" Like a green volcano, the soup rose up and spurted high in a thick bubbling wave. Hot and steamy, more and more of it made a green tidal wave that began to ooze over the table. "Hey! Help! Get up, Kimmy, let's go!" The four girls scrambled from the booth as the steaming green liquid rose like a fountain, to plop onto the table, and then ooze quickly onto the floor. "What's that?" "What's happening?" "Where are they going?" Voices rang out through the small restaurant. Confused kids gaped as Corky and her friends lurched down the narrow aisle, pushed open the front door, and fled to the sidewalk. "The evil," Corky managed to say, breathing hard, her heart thudding in her chest. "It's back," she thought. "The evil spirit is back." Their anguished faces revealed that all four girls realized it. The ancient evil spirit was back. It had been right at their table. Was it inhabiting one of them? Possessing one of them? Corky stared from face to face. Which one, she wondered. Which one? Chapter 2. Corky glanced out at the crooked rows of gray stones in the Fear Street Cemetery. "I still miss her," she told Kimmy, her voice breaking with emotion. "I still think about Bobby all the time." Kimmy shivered despite the heat of the late afternoon. She shielded her eyes against the lowering sun with one hand, her gaze following Corky's up the sloping hill of the old cemetery. Deborah and Ronnie had driven straight home, eager to get away from the restaurant, eager to get away from the evil that had erupted in front of them. Kimmy had driven Corky home to her house on Fear Street, but when they got in there, neither wanted to be alone. They went out for a walk and ended up just a block beyond the house at the cemetery where Corky's sister Bobby was buried, where Corky's boyfriend Chip was buried, both victims of the evil, the ancient evil that was still alive and refused to die. "Come on," Kimmy urged, tugging on the sleeve of Corky's t-shirt. With a sigh, Corky turned away from the cemetery and began walking slowly back along the narrow, cracked sidewalk toward her house. "That was so disgusting," she exclaimed, shaking her head. "All that hot green slime bubbling over everything. I'll never eat pea soup again." Shadows from the old trees overhead danced on them as they made their way slowly past the graveyard. The air suddenly grew cooler. "The spirit was warning us," Kimmy said softly, "telling us that it's still here." She stopped beside her car and uttered a loud sob. "Oh, Corky, what if it's still inside me?" Corky turned quickly, her features tight with fear, and hugged her friend. "It can't be," she whispered soothingly. "It can't be. It can't be." "But how do I know?" Kimmy asked, and pulled away from Corky. Her round cheeks were pink and glistening with tears. Her crimped black hair was in disarray. Her dark eyes, locked on Corky, revealed her terror. "I watched it leave you," Corky said, trying to calm her friend. "I watched it pour out." "I don't remember any of it," Kimmy admitted. "All of those weeks, that whole part of my life. I don't remember a thing. It's as if I wasn't there." "But now you're you again," Corky insisted. "Now you feel like you, right?" Shadows washed over Kimmy's face. Her expression grew thoughtful. I guess," she replied uncertainly. "Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I feel crazy, like I want to scream, like I want to throw myself on my bed and just cry." "But you don't, do you?" Corky demanded. "No, I don't." She grabbed Corky's arm. Her hand, Corky felt, was ice cold. "Corky, what if it wants to kill someone else? What if it wants to kill us all? No, Corky cried with emotion. No, we'll find it. We'll stop it. Somehow we'll stop it, Kimmy. Kimmy nodded, but didn't reply. Corky stared hard at her. She wanted to reassure Kimmy. She wanted to convince Kimmy that the evil spirit no longer possessed her. As Corky studied her friend's face through the thickening shadows, doubts began to gnaw at her mind. Would Kimmy know if the evil spirit was still inside her? If she did, would she admit it? As Corky stared at her, Kimmy's face began to glow. Her blue eyes lit up as if from some inner light. Corky shut her eyes. When she opened them, her friend appeared to be normal again. Call you later, Corky said, and took off on a run up to her house. Hi, I'm home. Corky closed the front door behind her and stepped into the living room. Anyone home? No reply. The house smelled good. Corky inhaled deeply. She recognized the aroma of a roasting chicken from the kitchen. Home sweet home, she thought, feeling a little cheered. She turned toward the stairway. A pile of neatly folded clothing lay on the bottom step. Laundry day. Corky stooped to pick up the bundle, then made her way up the stairs to deposit it in her room. Cradling the freshly laundered clothes in both arms, she stepped into her bedroom. Her eyes went to the windows, where the white curtains were fluttering, then to the bed. No! The clothing fell from her arms as she began screaming. Lying in her bed, tucked under the covers, was the hideous, bloated head of a corpse. Chapter 3. Corky stood gaping in horror at the lifeless, distorted face. She didn't see the closet door swing open. April Fool! Her little brother Sean leapt out and began laughing uproariously. Sean! He slapped his knees, then dropped to the floor and began rolling on the carpet, uttering high-pitched hysterical peals of laughter. April Fool! April Fool! Sean, you're not funny, Corky cried angrily. She swung her arm, playfully trying to slug him, but he rolled out of her reach, still laughing. Stop it, Corky snapped. Really, Sean, you're not funny. You're just dumb. Stepping over the clothing she dropped, Corky strode over to the bed. How could I have fallen for this? She asked herself. The stupid head doesn't even look real. It's all green and lumpy, and it has only one ear. Gotcha, Sean taunted, getting the most from his victory. I only pretended to be scared, Corky told him, turning away from the bed. Yeah, sure, he exclaimed sarcastically. I gotcha, Corky. He climbed to his feet, ran to the bed, and grabbed up the head in two hands. Think fast. He heaved it at her. Corky stumbled backward, but caught it. Cool, huh? Sean asked, grinning. I made it myself, out of papier-mâché, in art class. Corky turned it in her hands, examining it, a frown on her face. What kind of grade did you get for this mess? She demanded. An F? We don't get grades in art, stupid, Sean replied. Don't call me names, Corky snapped. I didn't. I just said you were stupid. She tossed the disgusting head back to him. Watch out. I'm going to pay you back, she warned playfully. It's my turn next. Ooh, I'm scared. I'm so scared, he said sarcastically. She hurried over to him, and before he could escape, reached up with both hands and messed up his blonde hair. He punched her hard in the shoulder. They went down to dinner. That night, with a full moon casting a wash of shimmering pale blue light into the room, Bobby floated through Corky's bedroom window. Corky watched her sister hover over her bed, her long blonde hair glowing in the pale light, floating around and above her in slow motion as if under water. I'm dreaming, Corky thought, but Bobby seemed so real, so alive. Bobby's blue eyes opened wide. She stared down at Corky, her arms undulating slowly as if she were treading water. She wore a long, loose-fitting gown like a nightgown, sheer and shimmering in the pale light filtering through the open window. Bobby, what are you doing here? Corky asked in the dream. Bobby's dark lips moved, but no sound came out. Bobby, why do you look so sad? Corky asked. Again, Bobby's dark lips moved, dark blue lips reflecting the cold, cold moonlight. Her hair billowed slowly around her head. Corky sat straight up and reached out toward her sister, but Bobby floated just out of reach. I can't touch you, Corky cried, her voice breaking with emotion. She leaned forward, stretching, reaching as high as she could. Still, Bobby floated inches away. The blue light swirled around them now, becoming a whirlwind, silent and cold. Bobby, what do you want? Corky demanded. Tell me, please. Bobby, her lips moving, locked her cold blue eyes on Corky. She seemed intent on telling Corky something, but Corky couldn't hear her, couldn't read her lips, couldn't understand. Why are you here? Corky pleaded. What are you trying to tell me? Bobby floated lower toward her sister. The blue light continued to swirl around them, closing them in, shutting out the rest of the room. "You look so sad, Bobby, so sad," Corky said, feeling her breath catch, ready to cry. "Tell me, please, tell me why you're here." Without warning, without displaying any emotion, Bobby reached up and grabbed her own hair. She tugged hard. The hair lifted up, removing the top of Bobby's head with it. "Oh no!" Corky shrieked in surprise. Bobby remained silent, holding the top of her head by the hair, gesturing with her other hand. "Bobby, what are you doing?" Corky cried, frozen in place, too horrified to watch, too curious to turn away. Bobby bent down and floated even closer. Closer. Corky peered up into her sister's open skull. "What is it, Bobby? What are you showing me?" Corky stared inside Bobby's head and gasped. In the darkness, the inside of Bobby's skull appeared to pulsate and throb, but Corky's eyes adjusted quickly to the pale light, and she saw what was moving in there. Thousands of squirming, crawling cockroaches packed into Bobby's head like coffee in a can. Their slender legs scrabbled over each other as their bodies bumped and slid in a horrifying, silent dance. "Oh!" Corky woke up, choking. She struggled to catch her breath. "Bobby?" Her sister had vanished. The blue light was gone, replaced by ordinary white moonlight. Her nightshirt, Corky realized, was drenched with sweat. Her whole body trembled, chilled and hot at the same time. "What's going on?" she wondered aloud, blinking hard, trying to clear her head. "I haven't dreamed about Bobby in weeks and weeks." She waited for the trembling to stop. Then, deciding to get a glass of water, she lowered her feet to the floor and stepped on something warm, something crackly, something moving. "Oh!" Corky jumped. Something crunched under her foot. Something crawled over her toes. She stared down. No. Oh, no. Cockroaches. Thousands of silent cockroaches, scuttling over the floor, over one another, climbing over her feet, starting up her legs. Their bodies glistened stark blue in the moonlight as they swam silently over the floor, an undulating, bobbing, throbbing carpet of cockroaches.